All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
So today we're talking about something that's super relevant if you're looking to make a serious impact, especially when it comes to talking about yourself professionally, like in a job interview.
Oh, absolutely. Those moments where you really got to be more than just, a bullet point list of skills on a resume.
Exactly. You got to bring something more to the table, and that's where the power of storytelling comes in.
You hit the nail on the head, and, we've been digging deep into how these top consulting firms approach problems and how they communicate their solutions. And one technique that keeps popping up, it's storytelling, but more specifically, it's a framework called Situation-Complication-Resolution.
SCR.
Yep, SCR, that's
okay.
Real.
So Situation-Complication-Resolution, SCR. Let's break this down. How does this actually help you really nail a job interview? That's what we're diving into today.
Totally. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how to use SCR to stand out no matter what kind of job you're going for. All right, so the SCR framework, it's really about these three key elements. First up, you've got the situation. Right. This is all about setting the scene for your listener, giving them the context.
Like painting a picture for them.
Exactly what was going on, what was the background, who are the main players involved, and what was the situation like at the very beginning.
Okay, so you're basically giving the interviewer all the pieces they need to understand what's coming next.
Right. You got it. It's all about laying that foundation.
Mm.
And then we move on to the second element, which is the complication.
Okay, the complication. This is where things get interesting, right?
Things get a little messy, right? This is where you introduce the challenge, the problem, that wrench in the gears, whatever you want to call it.
The obstacle.
Yes, exactly, the obstacle. But here's the thing. You can't just say, oh, something went wrong. You got to explain why it was such a big deal. What made it so difficult to overcome? You know what I mean?
Right. So it's about showing the interviewer the size and the impact of the challenge, not just that there was a challenge.
Exactly. You got to build that tension and show that you've dealt with something meaningful, something that really tested you. And that leads us to the final act, the resolution.
All right, so this is how it all turned out. How did you save the day?
Exactly. The resolution is all about the actions you took to tackle that complication. What steps did you take? And even more importantly, what was the outcome? What were the results of all your hard work?
I see. So it's like the happy ending to the story.
You could say that, but it's more than just a happy ending. It's proof that you can handle tough situations and come out on top.
Okay, so let's recap. Situation, you set the stage. Complication, something goes wrong.
Right.
Resolution, you fix it and show the positive outcome. It's like a mini movie you're creating in the interviewer's mind.
I like that. A mini movie, and that's what makes SCR so powerful, especially in an interview. It takes your answers from just listing facts to telling a compelling story.
Yeah, our brains are wired for stories, right? It just makes it stick.
Exactly. When you present information as a narrative with a challenge and a resolution, it just sticks with the interviewer way more than just, like you said, rattling off your skills.
Okay, I'm sold. But how do we actually use this in a real interview? Let's say the interviewer hits you with that classic, tell me about a time you handled a challenging project.
Oh, yeah, that one's a classic. And a lot of people just give a very surface-level answer, something like, well, in my last role, I worked on this team project. We had some tough deadlines, but we got it done.
Yeah, that's not exactly going to wow anyone. It's so vague.
Exactly. It doesn't tell us anything about the project, what made it challenging, or what you actually did. It's just like a statement.
Okay, so how do we SCRify that answer?
Yeah.
Let's hear the good version.
All right, so let's use SCR to make that answer shine. You could start with a situation like this. During my time at Company X, I was on a small team, just 3 of us, and we were tasked with launching this brand new CRM system, customer relationship management. And we had a crazy tight deadline, just 6 weeks.
Okay, so right away you've set the scene, you've got the role of the project and a big-time constraint. I'm already intrigued.
Yeah.
Where's the complication?
Here it comes. 2 weeks into the project, our technical lead, the guy who knew everything about the system, he unexpectedly quit.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a disaster. This left a huge gap in our expertise, especially when it came to the data migration, which was like the heart of the whole CRM. If we didn't get that right, the whole system would be a mess. We were seriously at risk of missing our deadline, and that would have impacted every other team in the company.
Okay, that's a real problem with some serious consequences. You can feel the pressure.
Right. So what do? You got to find a resolution. And this is where you shine. You say, I knew we had to act fast. So even though it wasn't really my area's expertise, I volunteered to take on the data migration. I spent late nights learning the tools, figuring it all out, and working closely with the rest of the team. And you know what? We did it. We successfully migrated all the data and launched the CRM system right on time. The sales and marketing teams were so relieved, and they actually gave us some amazing feedback.
Wow, what a turnaround story. The first answer was just blah. But this SCR version, you can see the context. You understand the struggle, and you see how you stepped up and saved the day. It shows you're a problem solver, a go-getter, someone who can handle the heat.
Exactly, and that's what the interviewer wants to hear. They're not just hearing about what you did, they're experiencing it with you.
I love it. Okay, so let's try another one. What about that dreaded tell me about yourself question? It's so open-ended, it's tough to know where to start.
Yeah, that one throws a lot of people off. They end up just reciting their resume, which is boring for everyone.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear a laundry list of your past jobs. So how do we use SCR to spice this one up?
Well, think about your current situation in your career and a big challenge you face that really shows off your skills and how you got to where you are now. Let's say for the situation you start with something like, right now I'm a marketing manager. I've got about 5 years of experience in the sauce industry, focusing mainly on customer acquisition and growth.
Okay, so you're establishing your current role and your area of expertise. What kind of complication could we throw in there?
Maybe something like, when I first joined my current company, their main way of getting new customers was through paid advertising, but their costs were going through the roof and the conversion rates were terrible. It was putting a lot of pressure on our growth goals.
So you've got a real business problem on your hands. How did you solve it? What's the resolution?
So I took the initiative to really dig into our marketing funnel, figure out where things were getting stuck. I started testing out new strategies like content marketing and SEO. Basically, I wanted to diversify how we were getting customers and make our existing campaigns work better. And you know what? It worked. Within a year, we managed to cut our customer acquisition costs by 20%, and we increased our leads by 35%.
Those are some serious results. It's not just talk, it's real impact.
And that's what makes it powerful. Instead of just saying, I did marketing, you're showing them how you tackled a specific problem and made a huge difference. That's what interviewers want to see.
Okay, one more big one that always gives people anxiety. Why should we hire you? It feels like such a direct question.
Yeah, it's the ultimate test. But this is where SCR can really be your secret weapon.
How so?
Because it lets you connect your past experiences and your proven ability to overcome challenges directly to the job you're interviewing for. You're not just saying you're good, you're showing them.
Okay, let's imagine someone's interviewing for a project manager role. Yeah. How would they use SCR for this question?
They could start with the situation, something like, I've been in project management for 7 years now, and I've always delivered projects on time and within budget, even when there were a ton of stakeholders and moving parts.
Sets the scene nicely, and it's super relevant to the job.
Yeah.
Now, where does the complication come in?
So maybe they say something like, at my last job at Tech Solutions, Inc., I was put in charge of this really important software implementation project. The deadline was super tight, and we were relying on a bunch of different vendors. One of the key vendors, they were constantly behind schedule, and it was putting the whole project at risk.
Oh man, that's the project manager's nightmare. So how do they turn it around? What's the resolution?
So they say, I knew I had to take charge. I started meeting with the vendor every day to get updates and keep things moving. I also came up with a backup plan just in case they couldn't deliver. I found another vendor who could step in if we needed them. In the end, we managed to catch up and launch the software right on schedule despite that huge setback. And because of that experience, I'm confident I can handle whatever project challenges come my way.
Boom. That's how you answer that question. You're not just saying, I'm a great project manager, you're proving it with a real-life example.
And that's the key. You're showcasing your skills in action, not just talking about them.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's wrap things up and give our listeners a clear plan of action.
Sounds good. So to recap, the biggest advantages of using SCR are that it makes your answers way more interesting and organized. It gives you a natural way to show off your problem-solving skills, which is something every employer loves. And when you include specific actions and measurable outcomes in your resolution, it just makes your story so much stronger and memorable.
So what's the first step our listeners should take to start using SCR to prepare for their interviews?
First things first, pick 3 common interview questions that are really important for the jobs you're interested in. These could be the ones we've talked about today, or others like, tell me about a time you failed and what you learned, which also works great with SCR.
All right, step 1, choose your questions. Then what?
Now for each of those questions, really think about your answer and structure it using the SCR framework. Write it all down, the situation, the complication, the resolution. Be as detailed as possible and include the specific things you did and the results you achieved.
Got it. So you're basically creating 3 mini stories about your career.
Yes, exactly. Once you've got those stories written out, the next step is crucial. You gotta practice saying them out loud. Don't just think about them, actually speak them clearly and confidently.
So practice makes perfect.
You got it. And here's a pro tip, record yourself while you're practicing. It might feel weird at first, but it'll help you see how you're pacing yourself, your tone, and any little habits you might want to change.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
You can really be objective when you hear yourself back.
Yeah.
And what's the final step?
Get some feedback. Share your SCR stories with people you trust, mentors, career advisors, friends who are good listeners. Ask them if your stories make sense, if they're engaging, and if they really show off your skills and how you solve problems. Honest feedback is super valuable at this stage.
Amazing. So to summarize, pick your interview questions, structure your answers with SCR practice out loud, and record yourself and get feedback from people you trust.
That's the recipe for success.
This has been such a useful deep dive into the SCR framework.
Yeah.
You've given us and all our listeners a really powerful tool to help with job interviews and beyond.
It's all about moving away from just reading off your resume and really showing the interviewer what you're capable of by telling compelling, well-structured stories.
So as you're preparing for your next interview, start thinking about your experiences in terms of situation, complication, and resolution. And think about this. How could you use this approach in other areas of your professional life? Not just interviews, but any time you need to communicate effectively. That's something to really consider.
And if you want to learn more about strategic communication and storytelling, there are tons of great resources out there. Remember, preparation and storytelling are your best friends when it comes to nailing those interviews.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We hope this has given you a fresh perspective and some practical tools to take your communication to the next level.
Now go out there and craft some amazing stories.
And rock those interviews.
Absolutely.
Until next time.